on puppet strings, running fast and crushing dreams. Who's gonna win the big shiny rings? Behind the doors they're getting briefed. It's so clear to see. Everything might seem so bright, but you can't be under the lights without being behind.
Wow, that was quite an opening, huh? Hey, Rambo, can you hear me? What is happening? Hold on a second again. All right, let's start here. Hey, Rambo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I apologize for that. I put a lot of time into a cool little.
Well, yeah, that was a nice opening track. Can you hear me?
Why?
I can hear you.
All right, Rambo, I think we're good.
Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can hear you as well.
I think you muted me for the opening track because I saw something go across that said I was muted, probably so that I wouldn't interfere with the opening track.
That was all my doing. So I apologize to anybody just tuning in. I want to
No, that was a great track.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I thought that would be a cool intro song. That is a shout out to TJ Contemporary Problems on Instagram. He made that for me, and so it is a custom song, which is really cool. But I'll say, Rambo, I'm so blessed and so thankful for this opportunity that you and I agreed to put together for the community. Right?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is my first time driving the car, if you will, as far as navigating StreamYard and YouTube and sharing screens and all that. So I just want to thank you all in advance for your patience as I work through this.
Are you doing well?
Yeah, and what I will say is that this weekly live stream with Rambo, this will be a standing live stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday for as best as we can within 1 hour, right? Because we know that in this world that we live in, there's always more to talk about. But we also know that a lot of people love to pick your brain on things, Rambo. And as I've told you many times, just your presence is so appreciated. So
Thank you.
What I'll tell you, sorry, really quick, is that I do have a phone line available, a call-in line, which I will post on the stream when that time comes. But I think it would be a great starting point for episode 1, if you will, of Are You Seeing What I'm Seeing with Rambo? Rambo, please tell your story. If you can give a little background about yourself. I'm very confident that most people in here know exactly who you are. But I think that would be a great starting point just to set the stage. And if there is anything else you would like to open with, we are all ears.
Well, I would say I just ask the basic philosophical questions that have always been asked since the inception of civilization, which are basically asking the nature of life. If I put that in a broad nutshell, and I'm just asking, who we are. These are philosophical questions. Well, how we got here, what is this place? And part of that examination, inevitably, which is a realization I came to, I say relatively late in life, that there are, I say, hidden forces, esoteric forces, perhaps behind framing the world as it is. And those forces, I would say, are elements such as astrology, the stars, magic, of course, gematria, the letter number code, allegories, mythology. And those all mesh together: astrology, tarot, allegory, religion as well. And you look at the history of religion, it goes back to ancient, what's called mythology, and then you ask the questions like how much of it is actually historical and how much of it is symbolic. And then when we do show these patterns, the question is how much of this is organic. The popular metaphor they make now, and also I use that in the iconography of my channel, is the matrix. If this is a matrix, it's some kind of a program, these elements that I'm talking about are part of that program. I don't claim to have the answers, but yes, we are left with the question: how much of this, once you see the patterns and see how these things are influenced, how these elements influence the events in life, and it also instructs the scripts, the scripts of fiction. And as we will demonstrate often in the truth community, how often life imitates art. So art does something and then life imitates it. Events will happen in life or in sports, which is part of quote unquote real life. Like your intro kind of question that, how real is it? Will appear, those elements will appear first in fiction and then manifest in real life. I know these are the questions we ask. How much of this is manipulated? How much of this is just organic? We will see some of these patterns in our own lives, and we're not aware of, we're not manipulating some of these patterns. And sometimes you'll see your own life story will mesh in a very uncanny manner with maybe a celebrity or a subject from mythology, and things like astrology, the tarot. Yeah, so this is what I present. It's an examination of pretty much life itself. And it's not just, symbols, numbers. I see a spiritual aspect to it because I do not believe that our consciousness ends once our bodies cease to exist. So I'd say, in general, this is what my channel explores.
Yeah, and I would say, you guys, I did my best to put all of Rambo's details in the description of this stream. I will put it on every following stream after, so that way you guys can follow Rambo any way you can. Another reason why we're doing this weekly get together with a call-in number is so we have a platform where all of us can talk, and I will be the first to say, but everybody agrees with me that I know that, Rambo, you are a brilliant mind. And
yeah, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And there are plenty more out there. I'm not going to rattle all of them off, but I just want to thank each and every person that I've connected with to help at least get me to the requirement to do a live stream like this. And I'm really excited about just the topics that will come up. I'm learning so much, but obviously there's going to be a lot of certain topics that we might want to just tread lightly on for the sake of, any slaps on the wrist or the channel getting taken down. But as you and I know, Rambo, right? Every week within 7 days, there's more and more and more to talk about. So, but if we can carve out an hour, hour and a half each week just to talk about anything, and not just about us, really about who else wants to share their observations or ask you a question. That's ultimately what I am trying to do. And like I said, I do have a phone number available for call-ins. I won't pin it until we're ready for that. But what I will say is that Rambo and I have discussed trying to stay as close into that hour as possible, because obviously we can talk all day long because there's always more, right? But if we can stay disciplined and take as many calls as we can, answer as many questions as we can, take notes, and then leave it for the following week, that'd be cool. What I will say is that when I do open up the line, there is no queue. So essentially, when we take our first call, whoever calls while I'm on the line, it's going to go straight to voicemail. And my thought is, just for now, is that if you have a question you want to ask Rambo, if there's an observation you want to share, please leave a voicemail, because I can use that as kind of a cue, right? That's always something we can go back and reference each week. So with that, Rambo, I guess my first question for you, once again, you guys, please hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to follow Rambo on Patreon /The Truth Codes. All of his knowledge and all of the work he does is $5 a month. Okay. It's the best value you will find in the world. That said, once again, I want to give this a platform for everybody. And I just want to ask you, Rambo, anything you would like to kind of tee things off with? I'll never ask you to have a presentation for me, but is there anything that you would like to throw out onto the table to start the conversation? And then we can open up the line whenever you're ready.
Nothing in particular.
Okay.
But like I said earlier, how certain elements, allegories, for example, have multiple elements of life attached to them, everything from fiction to sports to news events. You can see it as a web. There's a web. And the closer you get to the center of the web, the more things that are attached to it. So very often you'll see news events and certain narratives of sports, fiction, and there's this certain element that it'll all come back to. Not all, but for the most part. So those will be certain elements that are at the center of the web. And for me personally, it's an element that if anyone followed my work, I refer to often, and that would be Solomon's Temple, for all the interpretations it may have, a literal place or a figurative place. And is it an allegory? Some people see it as historical, and that's when I allude to. I see a lot goes back to that. And with Donald Trump in office, he has been seen as a harbinger for the building of a literal, physical Solomon's Temple, and which of course is problematic to say the least, because they want to build it at the location of the second most holy site in Islam. And I've done multiple videos on this, and I talk about this all the time. The Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. And an example of how a narrative like this, I already said how it affects the news and politics. With Donald Trump, they actually made a shekel, Israeli shekel, with Donald Trump's head and that of Cyrus, King Cyrus the Great of Persia, who commissioned the building of the Second Temple. So they compared Donald Trump to Cyrus already with an actual shekel. And so he's connected to the building of the third temple on the Temple Mount. So I see elements of this with Florida. So I didn't do any decodes on the, as far as like who I thought would be in the Final Four, but I just spoke to you off the air and you said how I was talking about Florida. And part of the reason was I see part of that Solomon's Temple narrative with Golden being the head coach, which could be a reference to the Golden Dome. And where's the Golden Dome? It's in Jerusalem in Israel. And Golden, the head coach of Florida, actually has Israeli citizenship. So he does tie into, and Solomon in the Gematria is 86. This is the 86th NCAA championship. So I'd say so much goes back to Solomon's Temple, and I mean so many different things. And I see this as another example, which is why I got into a decode, but you know that you've talked about how I thought that Florida would be in the final. I actually thought it would be with the Duke, because the Duke head coach is also Israeli, but definitely Florida. And it also has to do with this is the very mythological part of Solomon's Temple, is that Solomon controlled 72 demons to build the temple. Now, no one thinks that's historic. The demons actually, were cutting stone and chopping wood and, digging foundations. It's symbolic. And there's one particular demon which I thought was relevant to this narrative. That demon is called Arages, Arages, also spelled Agrias. The reason I thought that demon of again, they have what's called Clavicula Solomonis Regis, the lesser key of Solomon the king, where they list these demons, 72 of them, and they all have ranks. One of them has Duke. That's why I thought Duke would be in the final. The Duke of Hell. That's Arages. And he causes earthquakes, particularly. When Duke grad, Zion Williamson, played his very first NBA game for the Pelicans, it was in Las Vegas, there was an earthquake. And that was a direct reference to the Duke of Hell. Why would Duke call themselves Blue Devils? Like, what does a devil have to do with a Duke? The only one place where a Duke is directly connected to a devil, that is in the lesser key of Solomon the king, the Goetia. And that is a reference to that title, the Duke of Hell, Agrias, who causes, you can call Aragus or Agrias. He causes earthquakes. There was an earthquake in Las Vegas at Zion Williamson, Duke grad. And again, look at the name, Zion. His very first game in Las Vegas, there was an earthquake. And I thought to myself, there might be a little kind of, it didn't cause any major damage. I thought there might be something like that in Texas or something. And I said, if that leading up to the NCAA finals, I said, if that happens, then it's Duke in Florida for sure. But what happened, I didn't do this in a decode, so there's no proof that I actually ever predicted that, but I did. And then there was that really big earthquake in Myanmar, like a really big one. And I just thought, oh, that's interesting. I was just thinking about in reference to the NCAAs and the Solomon's Temple demon. Again, Solomon is 86 in Gematria. And, that demon causes earthquakes. The only thing that did not go the way I had projected was that Duke. Again, his title is the Duke of Hell. The name of Duke Blue Devils is a reference to the Goetia. Which again, that's the non-literal part of Solomon's Temple. And the way this demon is depicted, he's riding an alligator, which is exactly the symbol of the Florida Gators. So you didn't talk about how I did. I just told you I didn't put in a decode how I liked Florida in the final. Well, that's the reason. Because I know, like Adam, he's big. He picked Florida, and he to his credit, he picked Florida early, and Florida won it. He didn't pick him to the final; he picked him to win it. Full credit to Adam, brilliant decoder. I thought they'd be in the final, but not. But he picked him early.
Yeah, and Adam is Adam the Illusion. You guys make sure to go follow Adam the Illusion. He will absolutely be a part of one of these weekly get-togethers. Another brilliant mind. So
yeah, so that was the reasoning behind, because you told the audience, I've seen it in several videos, how I was on Florida. I was I thought it relatively late, not from the beginning. I didn't pick him to win. I picked him to be in the final, and that was because of this, how it lines up with Solomon's Temple, and so much does line up with Solomon's Temple, and it's a very serious issue because so far the actions being taken in the Middle East, it does not seem like, it might have seemed that way maybe a few years ago, that they'd never actually go that far as to destroy the second holiest site in Islam to build a third temple on. A very serious issue, and Donald Trump has been associated with another thing Trump did in his first term was he facilitated the moving of the Israeli capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So this is like another step to the building of the third temple, which is a huge, it's an understatement to say this is a huge issue. Solomon's Temple's at the middle of the web. And I'm just showing how in sports it has manifested in sports.
yes, and once again, you're on a level that I will always strive to get to. And
Yeah,
one
thanks.
thing, yeah, and one thing through my journey and what I've been preaching on, I will be the first to say, with the gold theme, I was all over Auburn and Duke with mainly the burning themes and the rise and the return that you were talking about. And I think a lot of the Solomon's Temple, 9/11 being a massive Solomon's Temple ritual, the rise and the fall, to become one, the resurrection, right? I was just on the all burning theme because AU being the acronym for gold, right? So I was completely wrong by my final matchup, right? Instead of it being Auburn Duke, it was Florida and Houston. But the only thing I wanted to add in is that I realized, wow, that theme still played out in the sense that you have Todd Golden, right? And everything else you were touching on. And then George Foreman, another boxer who died right before the championship. I would argue, how many people know George Foreman for being a boxer versus the George Foreman grill, right? So like that gold burn theme kind of still was going to happen no matter what, is what I'm realizing in that Final Four matchup. And so another thing, really all I had to share was just kind of how simple this is, you guys. Once again, please be patient with me for a second so I can share my screen. I got like 2 slides here. Can you see my screen, Rambo?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, cool. So as we know, Florida won. It goes back to that Cooper DeJean pick 6 and the whole ride I went on with that. But talk about simple. I mean, I haven't done the research to know about Kendrick Lamar's background, but he's wearing a Florida jacket, and Florida ended up winning the college basketball tournament. So I thought that was interesting. Don't forget, he's behind the flag, Trump, resurrection, the return, like you were touching on. I did want to point out just Florida also connects because of the whole Mar-a-Lago raid, right? That was a big deal on August 8th, 2022, 8/8, Trump equals 88, etc. But really, just one thing I wanted to share with you, Rambo, is what's really creeping me out about all this is it was in front of me all along. I was very much, once again, on Auburn Duke, didn't happen. But I wrote a book called The Hand. This is shout out to Sean Desad. We did a full live through read of this book, The Hand, before they even announced the release of Happy Gilmore 2. This was also before the announcement of Joe Lafferty's death, Flattery's death. He was also in Happy Gilmore. This was the same time that Carl Weathers died and Bob Barker, who were, all three of them were in the original movie Happy Gilmore. And I never saw Apollo Creed. At the time of this death, you were all over the Apollo Creed stuff, which ties right back into where we are today. But the reason why I latched onto Carl Weathers' death last year was because of Happy Gilmore. And sure enough, here we are, Happy Gilmore 2, featuring Travis Kelce, who is also in this book. But let me ask you this. Have you ever seen the movie Happy Gilmore, Rambo?
I have not. I've seen clips of it, but no, I've never watched the whole thing through. No.
All you need to know is that he played a character, Chubbs Peterson, and he was Happy Gilmore's coach, but he doesn't have a hand. You know why? Because his hand got bitten off by an alligator. So we're a year later, and it was right there all along, right? Not to mention, too, that in the Kendrick Lamar song, this is a shout out to you, Rambo, again, you kept saying to me, that Super Bowl was not about the game itself. It was about that halftime show, right? So that's when I really started leaning in to just that performance. And sure enough, the beef with Drake and Kendrick Lamar, Rambo, there's literally a line in that song that says, "They tell me Chubb's the only one that can get your hand-me-downs." You know, in my book, The Hand was all about Chubbs Peterson losing his hand, and now we have the Gators winning the following year. So that's all. That's all I had to share. Just
I'd say in general, that's one thing you actually should do. So think of All the World's a Stage, which is along the lines of what we're talking about here. All the World is a stage. I mean, this is not an authentic realm. It just isn't. So good thing to look at lyrics. Even if you, just say you have a decode, which goes back to a certain time or year, look at what was like the top 3 in the charts. There's literally a soundtrack to history. And what you just unearthed proves that, which is something I've realized, maybe I haven't emphasized it enough. There's literally a soundtrack to history, to life. And what you've unearthed part of that is something that I've realized. It's always good to look at what songs were in the charts. I did a decode when there was the police shooting of an Illinois woman, Sonia Massey. He said she had a pot of boiling water and then she was going to throw it on him, supposedly. And what I did, so it's all about the boiling water. And I looked at her address was a 4-digit number. So I took that number. I said, how many days before that incident? Because that was her house. I thought this must be part of the narrative, that number on the house. And so I said, well, I took that number of days in history. And it took me back to a date when the big story around the world was this massive migrant crisis in the Mediterranean of some African migrants crossing from Tunisia going towards Italy. And like 6,500 of them, this is as unprecedented, all at once, almost drowned. And the number 1 song in the charts, I think in the UK charts, the British charts, It was a song with Justin Bieber and some other artist. It was about drowning in cold, cold water. This is wild. This migrant crisis happened. There was this unprecedented number of migrants in the Mediterranean basically drowning. And the whole lyrics of the song are about, I feel like I'm drowning in cold, cold water. Come rescue me type things. So what you've unearthed is something I've discovered, which is there is a soundtrack, literally a soundtrack to history, all the world. This is a stage. Believe me, this is a stage. It's not an exaggeration. I don't think it's a metaphor at this point.
I really appreciate that, Rambo. Yeah, it's something that's really kind of freaking me out, because just because I'm on one thing doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I mean, when it comes to predicting sports, there's always that possibility. But we're all on to different narratives. And what I love about what we're trying to build here is just learning about as many narratives as possible. And one thing I'm learning is that it's way more simple than you think, right? It's a lot to take in, but Florida, I mean, it was on his jacket, for crying out loud. And I don't know anything about Kendrick Lamar. I don't listen to his music. I never paid attention to him really until this year. And we only have so much time every day to know. But let alone know that he has Chubbs and Hand in the same line.
It wouldn't even shock me if they responded, they shocked the world by responding with having Drake. Wouldn't that be something as the next Super Bowl halftime performer? I just since we're talking about Kendrick Lamar, just something to throw out. I considered, wouldn't that be something if they just threw out Drake for the next one?
I mean, come on, can't be that far off. I don't think that many people would be shocked by that. They would be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Right? Now it's Drake's turn. Right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if people are expecting that, because that was Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance at the most recent Super Bowl was considered basically the winning shot of their beef. Like he won. They're saying they've officially crowned him as the winner of that conflict. Like that ends it. They've officially said he's ended it. It's over. Like like gladiators, he's vanquished. I don't think people are kind of expecting, but I wouldn't put it past the NFL to bring Drake back, which that would mean the beef is silly beef. But they like these things. Divide and conquer. It's a good, way of imposing on the public consciousness, this whole division. It's also very childish. They like to keep people in a childish mentality. I would not be surprised if they bring back Drake. There's also, Drake's his popular logo is the owl, and he has an OVO. That's his favorite iconography. What does that make you think of? Make you think of Bohemian Grove and that owl? And where's the next Super Bowl? It's at the home of the San Francisco 49ers. There's one of my patrons. I wish I could remember who it was. I like to shout out those who have good tips. I can't remember who it was, but a patron of mine on Discord. My patron is connected to a Discord. When you join, you're automatically part of a Discord community. You pointed out there, I think it's Highway 101 in California. Actually goes from Levi's Stadium to Bohemian Grove if you stay on 101. And Bohemian Grove is that owl, so I'm wondering, wow, might there be an owl connection to the Super Bowl or something? So it's a little early. Season hasn't even started, and preseason hasn't even started, but it's something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Holy smokes, I never thought about taking the journey on an entire road and seeing where it goes. This is
101, Highway 101.
Yeah, this is another great example of just leaning into knowing that Rambo always talks about. There's always another way to lean in to better understand or know what's out there, and that's incredible. Because we could talk all day long about the Bohemian Grove, for example. But what you've taught me, Rambo, is, the numbers are always going to be there. because like once you focus on kind of the more simple childish stuff that's being put in front of our face, right? There's a reason why the beef with Chris Rock and Will Smith, that slap took place exactly on the nose 105 weeks apart from each other. Philadelphia Eagles, simplest cipher, A1B2C3 equals 105. Perfect. What happened right after the Eagles won? Well, you have Will Smith now getting a street named after him, and it's on 59th Street. You and I and the community knows about Black history in 59. But my point is Super Bowl 59, Eagles win. Now Will Smith is on 59th Street with his own street name. And one of the last videos I did, Rambo, was I was shouting you out again about the upside down hangman theme. Because Will Smith, in the opening credits of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, my life was flip-turned upside down, right? And he's literally laying in the throne upside down with his legs crossed, just like the hanged man. So it all fits so perfectly, and there's so little gematria that's a part of it, where it's very easy, in my opinion, to get kind of caught into the numbers. But when you focus on the much more simple things, you know the numbers are always going to follow. I did see one question in the comments here. They say, where is Rambo from? If you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little background about yourself.
My father was from East Africa, Kenya, and my mother from Brooklyn, New York. And I was born in Manhattan, New York on June 11th, 1969. And I've lived I grew up mostly in Africa, in Kenya. I lived in Ethiopia for a while. Which kind of ties into the Solomon's Temple thing, because when I was in Ethiopia, Haile Selassie was the emperor at the time when I lived there. Just at the time, there was a communist overthrow. He was overthrown at the time in a communist coup. I left there shortly. I lived in Kenya briefly. Then I lived in Morocco in North Africa. Then I returned here to the United States. In a nutshell, that's my background.
Well, we appreciate that, Rambo.
Oh yeah, wait, I didn't clarify. Like, what does that have to do with Solomon's Temple? I'm sorry. Haile Selassie is said to be a direct descendant of King Solomon, who some believe is an actual historical person. So that's the Solomon's, which, of course, in retrospect, I didn't know what the significance of his at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to be 56 years old this year, 2025. 56. Ooh. No, just to give you an idea, like, wait a minute, that was a long time. I've actually met someone from Ethiopia, and they're like, that's a long, long time ago. Like, really, you're I was around then, yes. That was like 1975. That's when that coup happened, when Haile Selassie was overthrown. I was in Ethiopia. That's where I learned the first time I saw the phrase "Yankee, go home." It was sprayed all over the place, because the United States supported Haile Selassie. And this was the middle of the Cold War. That's how long I've been around.
August 36 says here, I'm going to post it. He or she says, you look great for your age.
Thank you.
So keep
I actually got gray hair. I will appear without, but my hair is very gray. I might not look as young when I don't appear without. I usually appear with a head covering, but you'll see how gray my hair is at some point. You can see my chin. But thank you.
Do you still have your dreads going under there?
Yeah, I still have some dreads.
There it is. Okay, yeah, you got it. You got it.
A few of them.
Good for you, man.
So yeah, that's my background. I live in New York, so I don't sound like I'm from New York, but yeah, that's where my mother's side of the family is from, New York City.
That's awesome. We always appreciate just learning anything about you, Rambo. And once again, for your time. We are coming up on around the 20-minute mark before our 1 hour cutoff. If you're okay with it, just with this being our first kind of go around with this, with intros and whatnot, hopefully maybe you have a couple more minutes to spare. But I want to trial the kind of call-in number. My only challenge is I have a microphone that's connected to my laptop, blah, 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 blah. I don't want echoes. But was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before I put the call-in number? And ultimately, this is going to be either, it could be about anything, right? It's just about us sharing observations, asking questions, and starting conversations.
Yeah, I think, I shared what I think is relevant and how it attaches to a broader spectrum, outside of just, brings together sports and politics and Trump and mythology and history and religion. I think, that's, I feel that, that's what I thought was relevant now. I mean, many things are relevant, but I thought that was the most, off the top of my head, I thought that was the most relevant thing to offer.
Yeah, and the last thing I'm going to say before I pin the phone number, which, like I said, once it's up, first call I get, I'm going to take it, and it's kind of a first in, first out basis. But another thing, Rambo, that you and especially Sean Desad, Widow's Son, you guys make sure to go follow Widow's Son on YouTube. He's really challenged me, as have you, Rambo, to apply the same work to yourself. I've really been experiencing lately that this matrix, right, that you were kind of emphasizing, I'm seeing it now. Like I'm seeing, like I can't measure from when I hit a home run in Little League from the date of when my dad did, but I have the balls to prove it, if you will. Ball don't lie. And Sean's been awesome. We did a live stream the other day, and he immediately was able to pop up. Well, that if that was the date of your home run and your dad's home run, boom! Like it's incredible, you guys. These types of conversations. So, yeah, Sean, of course. Please make sure to follow Sean Desad, Widow's Son, right here, if you guys are looking for his thumbnail. So as far as this phone line goes, what I'm going to do, hey, Joey, what's up, man? Cool. You just jumped in. Second I turned it on, you're talking about Little League. I literally left Little League. This is kind of what we're talking about. How does this work so perfectly? So I think as long as you're ready, Rambo, I will put the phone line in, and ultimately, if just an observation, if you guys want to talk to Rambo, ask me a question, doesn't matter. This is an open platform, so there's a topic to discuss. But once again, Rambo, as long as you can spare me a couple extra minutes after 11 o'clock your time, let's just get maybe 2 or 3 calls in, hopefully to just talk about what the community would like to discuss. You cool with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Perfect. So I got the number right here. It's coming up right now. So it is first come, first serve. As soon as you guys see this number and you guys want to have a chat, make sure that you dial that number quickly. I had a choice of a few numbers, and I had to go with this one, and it had everything to do with 3, 6, and 9. So, oh, shoot. Oh, come on. Can I delete this? I'm going to delete that. Sorry, the 866 didn't pop up. All right. It's 866, so get your fingers ready. 866. All right. It's officially in the chat. I'm going to show it now. This is the call-in number. Once again, I am very new to this, and I want to make sure that we can hear smoothly. But I'm hearing you from the laptop, but I got my phone ready, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, we got our first caller. Caller?
Hello.
Hello?
Hi there. So I have more of a general question.
Yes.
I'm Silver Lake.
Yeah, so,
My name is Silver Lake. I'm in Texas.
Okay.
And my question is, I've noticed that in the last few years, decoding has become, although...
Sorry, Miss, really quick. I just want to make sure that the audience can hear you and that Rambo can hear you as well.
I can hear it pretty clearly.
You can hear. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay, this is my very first call, so thank you for being a part of this. This is fun. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Silver Lake. I'm in Texas. And my question is general. I've noticed that over the last few years, decoding has become more relevant or more known, more public. And I know we're shadow banned and quieted, but still, people are finding about it more and more. Do you think that there's an active movement coming from somewhere that is putting forth to a larger community the numbers, the gematria, the coding? I mean, you can see the blatant symbolism. I know it's old, but it's like decoding with Cody talks about. It's right in our faces with wrestling. It's like they want us to see it. Do you think that's the case?
Rambo, I'll let you take the lead on that one.
I'll just hang up.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, caller. Thank you.
I think that if you look back, if you decode earlier events from decades earlier, or even historical events, I think those numbers did appear. This is the thing. Once you're aware of it, they won't stop doing it. So, for example, I say this started with the advent of the internet. Of course, some of my age can appreciate of a time when there was no internet. And those of us who remember the pre-internet world, you didn't really know about, no one really talked about, forget gematria, but symbolism. For example, what's a popular symbol you see with celebrities? Is how they cover one eye or do something around one eye. You know, maybe the OK sign. I was going to demonstrate it, but no, I don't know. They'll just take a screenshot of that, and there I am covering my eye. But nobody was aware of that. That actually, awareness of that, only things, symbols like that, the one eye symbol where, you know, you see half a face or something, or that sort of thing. Nobody talked about that pre-internet. Once the internet came along, this decoding community, I'd call it that truth community movement, for lack of a better term, the truth movement, got more of a platform. And the few people who noticed that, their observations were able to be magnified and seen by the whole world. Suddenly, everybody notices it now. It's in all commercials. It's not even just celebrities doing it. But have they? That's the thing. So not everybody's onto the whole one eye thing, the celebrity covering one eye. Are they going to stop now that we know it? It may seem as if now they're just doing it more because we know about it. And the reason they keep doing it is because they have no choice. They have to do it. And if you look back, the Beatles and Michael Jackson used to do all that. But at the time, nobody was talking about the Beatles and Michael Jackson doing things like covering one eye and all other different various occult symbolism, MK Ultra symbolism, the most popular MK Ultra symbol being the butterfly to indicate the monarch butterfly after MK Ultra Project Monarch by the CIA, which is not just the CIA, and it did not end like the CIA claims it did, because they put their symbols everywhere. Those butterfly symbols, MK Ultra symbols. Now we look back, throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s, they've been doing it. It's in all the videos, all the occult symbolism we talk about now. It's, yes, in the internet age, everyone knows it. They'll say, well, they're not stopping. They just continue to do it. In fact, it seems like they're doing it blatantly, but they always were doing it. It's just in the 60s, 70s, 80s, nobody, the few who noticed it didn't really have a voice. The mainstream media is not going to tell you, by the way, the monarch butterfly is a symbol of MK Ultra, and secret societies and governments and music industry is controlled by these forces who do mind control, trauma based on their. No, the mainstream's not going to tell you that. But we look back and look, they were doing it then too. They're not going to stop just because we notice, because they have to do it. It's part of, to make a metaphor, programming the matrix. They can't stop. If we notice it, they won't stop because we notice it. They have to continue in order to keep this thing going, this structure, this whatever this realm is in place. These are symbols and images that have to be put forth. And it's done mostly psychologically on the deepest recesses of the human unconscious. Every single human being understands on a deeply unconscious level what these symbols mean, and they will react accordingly. And who knows if they're even getting the reaction that they want, but they're doing it because they have to do it, and they've always done it. We've noticed it now. So I guess it would be easier to notice the symbols than the numbers. So I'd say like the butterfly symbol. I could just think of Iron Butterfly, whose big hit in Agata Devita, Iron Butterfly. Now, if you talk about butterfly now, everyone knows, oh, butterfly, MK Ultra, that's mind control. Yeah, but they were doing it in the 70s. Nobody in the 70s knew about MK Ultra. It's because of the internet. They always were doing it, and they're not going to stop because they have to do it. They have to do it. There's a rule that says, that mandates that they do it. They can't choose to stop just because we notice it.
Interesting. Yeah, I would love to learn more about that for sure. I just think about, we're in a much more advanced time, right? There's a lot more access to information now than there was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. Who's not to say how far advanced the actual technology is that they're keeping from us, right? But no, I think that was a good answer to our very first question that came in. Next, we have the one and only Sean Desad. I know that we're in a group chat together. Sean, one of my dearest friends. Sean wanted to call in. Hey, Sean, how you doing, man? Yes, I can hear you. Rambo, really quick, can you hear Sean? Sean, can you just say something to say hello?
Red leather, yellow leather.
Did you hear that?
It's slightly muffled, but I think I can hear it clear enough. It is slightly muffled, but I can hear it clearly enough, I think.
Yeah, Sean, do your thing. What do you got for us?
I could barely hear Rambo, but I guess it's okay because all I really wanted to do was, congratulations to you guys on a successful first episode, and I think this is definitely something that this community needs, and I wanted to introduce myself to Rambo because I'm really good friends with AJ. He's like my brother, and I've seen him. I got to see him progress from before he met you to once he met you, and his work just blew up astronomically, and from that it indirectly helped me a lot too, because from the stuff that you taught him, I've learned a whole lot too. Things I've never would have looked into, and looking at things in a way I never would have. So yeah, I just really wanted to say hi, meet you, and to tell you that you have had a really big impact on AJ, and like I said, indirectly myself too. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for this the show of you guys. Yeah,
thanks to meet you, and I'm glad you got that positive feedback from AJ. Yes, I look forward to exchanging ideas.
But yeah, I can. Yeah, I can't really hear anything, unfortunately. But I can drop off then. But yeah, hopefully you're able to. Hopefully I was able to get my message across, and hopefully I could maybe talk to you guys another time when I'm driving right now, so maybe that might be when. But yeah, hopefully I can talk to you guys another time. Yeah, again, congrats, and I'll see you later.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was just a kudos call and a thanks. Sean is as big of a fan as I am about you, and I know many people in this community just appreciate your work, your insight, etc. So the line is back open, you guys. We are closing in on the 10-minute mark as far as us trying to keep this as strictly tight within an hour as possible. So yeah, any observations, any questions, the line is open. Feel free to call. The number is posted. But yeah, Rambo was just like all this time I was on the burning Cooper flag stuff. So much tied in with me, and sure enough, boom, the gator just comes in and takes the win, and it just ties me right back to the gator chomping off the hand of Carl Weathers, after last year's death. And of course, we had the death of George Foreman. Let me ask you this, Rambo. Quick question. Oh, okay. We got another call. Sorry. Here we go.
Community just appreciate
Hey, caller?
your work.
Caller?
Hey, what's up?
Hello? Can you please mute the background? Or music playing. Hold on. Shoot. Just a moment. Just sit tight. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
What the heck? Why is it playing music? Whoa. Okay, hey Rambo, can you hear me?
Yeah, coming loud and clear.
Okay, apologies for that little hiccup. We do have a new caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Doing well. Rambo, can you hear the caller?
Not loud, but yeah, I can make out what he's saying so far.
Go ahead, caller.
Hey, what's up, Rambo? What's up, AJ? It's good talking to you guys, man.
Yeah, it's much louder and clearer now. Very good.
Oh, yeah, I got off the speaker. Hey, guys, man, I want to thank you guys again, man, for collaborating and bringing this truth community closer together with all this information you guys have and sharing this valuable knowledge with the greater public and the greater audience. Man, it's a great thing you guys are doing. I've been a long time listener to Rambo for a couple of years now. I found out about him through Zach, which I think was a big influence for Chamacha, man. Because that kind of opened the door to a lot of things in my life. Because when I started hearing Rambo, I started to look at life differently. I think Rambo's the one who says, a picture has a 1,000 words, but a symbol has 1,000 pictures. I think that's what he says.
Yeah.
And, he opened my eyes to a lot of truth, man, in his life, in my life. And I know that, that a lot of things he talks about is from the Bible, and he knows the Bible very well. And he tells the people that, people like, that one famous devil guy, what was his name? I forgot his name. But, they talk about the devil guys, they interpret the Bible inverted. So everything they do is inverted, and that's how they kind of code things, and Gematria kind of figures that out. And that's how we know that the devil number is 666. Anyways, my question to Rambo and AJ is, I want to find out you guys' thoughts, since you guys are more professionals on what's going on in the world. I'm not sure if you guys listen to this guy named Marco Ponce. I found out about him through Zach as well. And this guy's really good at the Bible. And this guy is claiming that there's this prince from Saudi Arabia named MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. He's saying that this guy, basically that Zach and Marco Ponce have decoded the 2,000-year-old mystery of who is the Antichrist. And they're saying this is guy MBS. So I just wanted to ask Rambo if he's heard about this rumor or heard about this guy Marco Ponce, and what his thoughts are about MBS being the Antichrist. And thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, caller. I'm going to let Rambo address that. I'm going to hang up now. Won't take another call until after Rambo has his piece, but this is definitely a question for Rambo, because I have nothing to add to that question, but it's a good one.
I do know Mark. I'm familiar with Mark. He actually is a big part of the gematria community. When I did the TFR show, he was a consistent caller, so I'm very aware of him, and he would disagree with you that that I'm any Bible expert. He's not impressed with my Bible interpretations, but that's fine. We're exchanging ideas. No one's supposed to. Everybody comes from different angles, and he really has. He studied especially the Revelations. I'm very familiar with him, and yeah, I'm also aware of how he feels. It's Prince Mohammed bin Salman, like again Solomon. All goes back. That's at the center of the web. Solomon. There's a theory that Solomon's temple is actually in Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's at the center of the web. Solomon's temple. But yeah, I'm familiar with Mark. He's not impressed with my Bible interpretation. But yeah, he has put a lot of thought into his theories, and oh yeah, I've heard multiple people recommend that. I mean, they're multiple. So when it comes to the Antichrist, there are always these people have different interpretations of the Antichrist. Some people feel Donald Trump is the Antichrist. Some people thought Barack Obama was the Antichrist. Some people thought Saddam Hussein was the Antichrist.
And all of them have also been considered the savior, right? You have that many, I don't know, equal, but
yeah, not so much Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein saw himself as Nebuchadnezzar.
Sure, you get my point.
Yeah. But then I don't want to kind of get it. That's a Mercury symbol. Mercury is Christ and Antichrist. Mercury rules Gemini. Very often you'll see a Gemini or a Virgo who's a Christ or Antichrist figure. So Donald Trump is both. Yeah, that's a good, and that has to do with Gemini, has to do with Mercury. In fact, my latest decode is kill the messenger. The messenger is Mercury, and there are two sides of Mercury. Mercury was Hermes to the Greeks, and Hermes and Mercury existed long before Jesus did. Mercury and Hermes had a god for a father, Zeus, Jupiter, and a mortal mother, who is Maya. That lines up with Jesus, and that existed before Jesus did. But a big one is Hermes was where you got actually, it didn't start with Hermes. It actually went back to Sumer, which I still have to do a follow-up video on the messenger archetype, but it ties in with this. It goes back to Mercury is Christ and Antichrist. So Mercury is also the good shepherd. The term the good shepherd didn't start, but it was prominent with Hermes, and Hermes is depicted holding a sheep or a ram on his shoulders. And that is how Christians depict Jesus, the good shepherd, holding a sheep or a ram. That's why some people speculate. That's not the reason, but it has to do with the work of a pastor who's also an astronomer, Ernest L. Martin, who used his calculations to determine that September 11th was the real birthday of Jesus. I think most people can agree that it was not December 25th. That's more of a Roman celebration.
Sol Invictus, right?
Yeah, so Roman Catholic, when they adopted Christianity, or which I guess they started the first Roman Catholic, that's why it's called the Roman Catholic Church. They infused a lot of Roman mythology with this new Christian religion. And I'm saying if Jesus actually existed, his birthday most likely would have been somewhere in summer, near the end of summer. Well, Ernest L. Martin was the first to actually show a chart. He was an astronomer, but he was a meteorologist. So he did have a background, and he came up, and this was back in 1980. He came up with September 11th, 3 BC. And using the star of Bethlehem, he figured it was a huge conjunction. Anyway, September 11th, interestingly, lines up with Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And isn't it interesting that Mercury is the good shepherd? And Christianity adopted that from Greek mythology, the good shepherd. But there are two sides of Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Mercury is also a very evil side. So nothing is purely good. Like, oh, Jupiter's good, Saturn's bad. If you say Saturn sounds like Satan, so Saturn's evil. No, there's a positive side of Saturn. Saturn rules karma and justice. Justice is a good thing, believe me. Or Saturn rules the realm of justice. So Saturn's not just Satan. I say that just to illustrate that there's a positive and negative aspect to all these entities. It's not like Saturn's the bad one or Mercury's bad or good. Most Mercury is Christ and Antichrist. And it's very interesting with these, like MBS, we were talking to Saudi Mohammed bin Salman. I believe he's a Virgo, and Donald Trump is a Gemini. Mercury is so central to this. If there is an Antichrist, if somebody is, whoever that is, I'm pretty sure they'll be, if there legitimately is, I don't know how you'd know if it's ever going to be proven, but if there is, whether we find out for sure who that is, they will be a Gemini or a Virgo. But so will the Christ, because that is Mercury. It is Christ and Antichrist. And at least on that aspect, I would say, yes, bin Salman does line up. Absolutely. He has the negative side of Mercury. And Donald Trump is openly being, what I say, he's being, well, if he's a persona that's being manipulated, but manipulated using Mercury. Some of that is organic because if he's just a Gemini, but a lot of that is very conscious. But the thing with Trump, he seems to be both. They have him a Christ figure. Who knows? He doesn't look like much of a Christ figure. Some people see him as a savior. It remains to be seen. But some people also do see him as an Antichrist, as the Antichrist. And so in eschatology, they believe that when the third temple is built, the Jewish Messiah will enter the third Solomon's temple. I believe it will enter from the Eastern Gate. I'm not sure, but he will enter Solomon's temple. I might be from the Eastern Gate, and so what many Christians believe is that the Moshiach, the Jewish Messiah, and again, so in Judaism, it's not a monolithic religion. There are so many interpretations of Judaism. There are already some sects of Judaism who believe that certain people are the Messiah. You're never going to get someone where everybody accepts, yeah, that's him. It'll never happen. So if there ever is a third temple built, which will be complete chaos to the world, I mean, at that point, we'll just have worldwide fascism. But if there is, and somebody enters and is hailed as a Messiah, Christians will say, no, that's the Antichrist. Whoever that is will be either and again, some people believe Solomon's temple is actually in Saudi Arabia. Maybe there's truth to that too. So maybe MBS could be, in that respect, he could be the Antichrist, but Solomon's temple in that case will be in Saudi Arabia. And there are some even Jewish scholars who believe that. So what they, like they talk about the Exodus. After the Exodus, they say they were in the desert for like decades, or 30, 40 years. Like, no one just stays in the desert like that. They believe they made a right turn and went to Saudi Arabia. And Solomon's temple was built in Saudi Arabia. So there's a wide variety of theories. Who's to say who's wrong and who's right? But MBS as an Antichrist, that's an understandable. It's an understandable theory, but I just find it interesting that it goes along the lines of my observations through astrology / mythology, where the Christ and Antichrist are both Mercury, and he happens to be from a zodiac sign that is ruled by Mercury. I just find that really interesting how it ties into my angle.
I love that, Rambo. Yeah, and for me, once again, trying to see how simple it is. It's that whole yin and yang, positive and negative, the color spectrum that you and I have talked about, right? Black and white, and just Sean and I have talked about 6 and 9 and the spiral and the flower. I mean, there's so much But it does all really tie in with what you were just saying about how there is a positive side to essentially every element of what we look at.
There's a positive and a negative. Yeah. That's just the yin yang balance.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That I always lean on like 666. Yes, it is an evil number. It's a satanic number, but there's also a lot of 666 connected with all of us as human beings that you can't escape, right? So does that make all of us evil? No. It just shows that swing, right?
Going back again, I'm going to talk about Solomon's temple again. How much gold did they say King Solomon had?
666 talents. That's why King James said, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, right?
Yeah, so going back to what the other caller said, it was Salman. His name is Salman. That's a reference to Solomon. And they're saying the Antichrist is going to be related to Solomon's temple. It's amazing how it all comes back to that. A lot, I mean, not all, but a lot comes back to that. But it's a bit major metaphor. It's not. 666 also represents primarily the world of matter, which is anti-spirit. It's the devil in that respect. It's the world of illusion. We talk about how fake this world is and how things are manipulated and this and that. That's what 666 is. It's the number of the material world. Most matter contains carbon-12, which is made up of the carbon-12 molecule is made up of 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. That's where 666. It represents matter, the material world. And so this goes into, yes, the illusory nature of this material world. It's anti-spirit, and it's evil or the devil, an illusion in the sense that this is not the be-all end-all. It's very temporary, and if you can't see past this, which of course is difficult because you're not given the tools to see past this, it takes some mental effort to explore spiritually. You will not be in touch with your true self. Your true self is not what you see in the mirror. You existed before AJ, what you see, what I'm seeing AJ on the screen. That hasn't, how long has that been around? 30, 36 years?
Just hit 35.
Yeah. But you existed before that, though. And when it ceases to exist, you're not going to end. That is the illusion. And that's why 666, it's the material world, which is a world of illusion. It's not the be-all, end-all that people make it out to be. And it's not advisable to, I guess, put everything into the world of matter. It's the devil in that sense. It's just not. It's anti-spirit. It's not the real you.
Well, the Bible itself does say that I am within you multiple times, right? So you have Jesus who comes from the Father, and then Jesus says that I am within you. My own interpretation is that we are all an extension of our Creator. And, by us just sharing our findings and using the tools and resources that we have available to our best ability, I think that is us ultimately. We are not God, but we are an extension of God or our Creator or the source, if you will.
Well, there's several, again, we're using the Bible, but there are other traditional beliefs that are older than Christianity. And, Christianity does draw from some of that, even though not directly. I would go with, I don't know what verse this is, Jeremiah. Yeah, but it's in Jeremiah where they say, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. That's what God is saying. I knew you before you were formed in the womb. And I know people will interpret it the way they want. Yeah, everybody's a free thinker, but I think if you want to illustrate a biblical verse that does, I guess, agree with that particular viewpoint.
Yeah, let me try this really quick, just for me to learn how to drive. What Bible verse would you like me to pull up?
It's Jeremiah something, but if you write it, it doesn't have to be perfect. Before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. So that goes along the lines of what we're saying. I'm saying you existed before AJ Straight was born 35 years ago. That's not when your life started. You already existed, and when AJ Straight is supposedly dead, you will still exist. Your consciousness will not end. Now, is there proof? No, there's no proof of that. So if an atheist disagrees, I totally respect that, because there's no proof. There's no proof at all. But before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Yes. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nation. So the suggestion there is that a person exists before they're born on Earth, and that goes along the lines of what I was saying.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not something that typically Christians would adhere to. I think the Abrahamic religions believe that your life starts, and you have one shot at it. I guess whatever your birthday is, that's when your life starts, and when you die, that's where it ends. But no, you existed before you're born. That's my belief. Of course, there's no proof. I respect anyone who disagrees with that. I totally respect it.
And the same goes for me, right? At the end of the day, this is what this whole little weekly check-in is about, is just sharing observations. And it's not about, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, or anything. With what you were just saying, Rambo, this is probably, to me right now, in my time of my life, the most profound Bible verse out there. And it all goes back to what you were saying about, just all the evil stuff. Yeah, they're being children, right? Like the way that these things are playing out, there's all these little jokes, inside jokes that people aren't in on and whatever. And it is childish. And a lot of what Sean, once again, Widow's son, that him and I have been talking about with love being as a child, the Bible literally says, if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must humble yourself as a child. Otherwise, I never knew you. That's in the Bible as well. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave that one there. There's a lot with that. Matthew McConaughey, we touched on Dazed and Confused, and he likes them young. And then you have, say, Drake, I hear you like them young. They talk a lot about being young and children, and it comes into a very dark space. Trump's involved with that as well. We're not going to go there. But just my 2 cents on this. I feel like this is just another way that they're screaming at you that you need to humble yourself as much as you possibly can, like you do, Rambo. You're my mentor at the end of the day. And you said that you've made the choice to just knowing, meaning you're like, every day you open up your eyes, you're an infant entering this world, and it's always about learning more. So that's
thanks. But when you open yourself up to knowing, you put the energy out there to the universe. You want to know the unvarnished truth, and the universe will say, really? You'll say, yes, the unvarnished truth. Well, hold on to your socks.
Yeah.
It's a tough road for anyone. If that's what you want. Enlightenment, nothing comes easy. That's worth anything. But the humbling like a child, how I interpret that, as referring to, is an ego death. When at a very young child, a very young age, we're not talking about 6, 7, 8 years old, younger than that, does not have an ego. It's about death to the ego. Humbling yourself means you have to die to your ego. That is not an easy thing, even just to understand that is not. So it's one thing to be a nice, humble guy or gal, who doesn't brag about themselves, I mean, that's nice. It's another thing to die to your ego. And I believe that is what it's referring to. If you want to reach, what's kingdom of heaven? I mean, on other Bible passages, Jesus says, they ask him, where is the kingdom of heaven? Is it here? Is it there? Is it external? And I find the Abrahamic religions tend to stress the external, where God is outside of you. Heaven is this place that you go to, or God is heaven, or God is something outside of you. In the past, churches took advantage of people that way because you had to go through the church. That gave them all this power. Otherwise, you'll go to hell. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Yes, where's the kingdom of heaven? Like, I want to go to heaven. No, you have to go inward to go to heaven. That's in the Bible. Kingdom of heaven is within you. And you can actually see where that phrase originates. It actually originates in ancient Egypt, and it's attributed to the god Thoth, also known as Tehuti or Jehuti. It's long before Christianity existed. And there's a possibility that Jesus, from where he came from, probably did study ancient Egyptian philosophy, which Abrahamic and I guess there's Roman Catholic Church that spread it. Those, a lot of the writings, ancient writings, texts that made it into the Bible were left out. The Bible is very edited. There's so many more writings. People call that Gnosticism now, if you kind of acknowledge those others. But nonetheless, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not outside. It's not a place you go to. It's within you. In order to go there, you have to die to your ego. It's not an easy thing. It is not easy. It's quite brutal process. That's what it is a separation process. The devil is the material world. So I'm not picking on you. I'm using you as an example. AJ Straight, that's been existing for 35 years. That is not you. You existed before that. If you are, so the real you, so you have to die to that identification, whatever name you're given, whatever gender, sex, nationality you have, which you are attached to. You say that's you. You have to die to your ego. And that separation process is excruciating. And it's not something that can be done in one lifetime. But where is the kingdom of heaven? It's not out there.
Yeah.
It's not out there. It's within you. And how do you get there? When it says humble yourself like a child has no ego. A young child. I'm not talking about a 6-7-year-old. They try to form.
Right.
You have to die to your ego. And that ego is your false self, your lower self. That's what 666, the world of matter. That matter that you see when you look at it in the mirror, you can touch. That's not the real you. You have to do that painful extraction process. That's what it means. It's dying to your ego. This is the realm of ego. Ego is evil. 666. Ego is this is the realm of ego. When you're not in this realm, you separate from ego. But can you separate from ego here? It's a very painful process. That's actually what the path to enlightenment is. Separation from ego to the higher self, the real self. And the Bible doesn't say that directly. That's exactly what they're saying when he says, be like a child. Die to your ego. And good luck, sincerely, with that for everybody. It's yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Rambo. That was so beautifully said. I can't wait to go back and just re-listen to those words that you just said. That's what it means to me. Like, we just need to strip down our ego, all of us. We need to act as children, not like little brats, when we don't have our toy. We need to act like an infant, like when we come into this world think of it this way. When you open your eyes for the very first time, I said this on Sean's live the other night. Do you remember the moment you were born? Rambo, can you tell me that? Oh, I remember the moment I was born. I was brought in and there were bright lights in the hospital room. No, nobody remembers that moment. But my whole point is that the Bible itself, for those that really take the Bible extremely seriously, which I do too, but I think people take it more literally than they do more how they should. from a more metaphorical perspective, being as a child, not walking around like as if I know everything there is to know about the world. As
Yeah,
long
but
as
I'm saying,
you're in that, you know.
I think it means more than just not being braggadocious. I mean, that's nice to be humble and not brag about yourself.
Sure.
It's another thing to die to your ego. A child, like you said, when they come into the world, they come into the world with no ego whatsoever.
They don't even know what ego is. They know nothing.
Yeah, but the thing now that's the thing. As an adult, you develop self-awareness, where like animals have no ego, but they're programmed. They can't have egos. Children can't have egos. Your ego will develop inevitably when you're in this realm. But when you come in as a child, you have no ego. What your ego is developed to go to completely separating yourself from ego, that's way more than just being a nice person who never brags about themselves. Death to the ego is, I mean, it's an understatement. I can't describe it. You're separating. It is an excruciating process, and it's also just a mental exercise. So it's more about. It's not just about not being braggadocious. It is about dying to your ego. Which is your lower self. Which is, again, this is why this is the world of matter 666. What is that's ego. I don't even just understanding the concept takes a while. I didn't understand that concept until I'd say, I don't know, 2 years ago, if that. Take me like maybe 55 years to just understand the concept. I heard about it, die to your ego. Once you start going along the path, I mean, anything worth having it'll come at a price. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, the whole thing about being humbling yourself, that requires you getting smacked across the face and then some.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to know, you better be ready for the ride of your life, right?
Yeah, it's all the great sages of all the great sages. It was not even the ones who were mythological. Okay, let's look the most popular one. Jesus, because that's just the easiest example most people are familiar with, the narrative anyway. Whether you believe in it or not, you're familiar with the narrative. That's why it's the best example to use.
Yeah.
What was his life like? So a lot of people like to identify with Jesus, and for various reasons, maybe they're born December 25th, or they were born whatever. For a variety of reasons, a lot of people like to identify with Jesus. Russell Brand, someone like him. Although the celebrities sometimes are made to do it, where he has that look, the long hair and the goatee, and he has the 33 tattoo. But the thing about, he even did a song, I Am Jesus, which is very sacrilegious. He says he's a Christian now, whatever. He's in big trouble now with the accusations. Nonetheless, people like that, if you want to identify with Jesus, okay, what was Jesus' life like? From the beginning, what was his life like? Is it a glorious thing where everybody thought you're so awesome? Yeah, there are some people who did shower him with praise that he was awesome. Like, look at that life. I mean, you want to be Jesus, really? They wanted to kill him before he was born. They wanted to murder his mother before he was born because they knew this soul was about to incarnate. They knew who was in that womb. They said, we're going to kill his mother. She had to run for her life before he was even born. Then when he was born, they said, just to make sure we kill that kid, let's kill every newborn, any kid that was born within the last year. Let's kill them all just to make sure we get him. And they had to escape to Egypt. And he was on the run his entire life. And how did it end with him? That is what it's like. If you want to be Jesus, that is what the life of a sage is. That is the process of enlightenment. That is what it's like. I mean, of course, it can all be a metaphor. You won't necessarily be flogged with a cat of nine tails. You'll feel like it mentally.
Yeah.
That is the path to enlightenment. There's no easy way to it. I guess the core there, what you're doing is dying to your ego.
I couldn't agree more.
And that's what's meant when you say be like a child. A child is
Yeah.
born with no ego, but once you've developed an ego, to separate yourself from the ego is excruciating, almost impossible. And it takes several lifetimes to do it. That's what Solomon's temple is, metaphorically. It's when you've separated from the ego, when you've discovered. It's know thyself, the most central spiritual axiom, you could say, since the beginning of civilization across multiple cultures. Ancient Egypt really stressed it. It's in the Matrix. Know thyself. That means to know thyself requires dying to ego, and it is brutal.
Yeah.
But like DMX said, you know, the key to suffering is not that you want the suffering to end; it's to find meaning in the suffering. As long as you find meaning in the suffering, then that'll get you through the suffering. But you're not going to avoid the suffering.
Yeah, Rambo. Here's the last thing I'll say about it, because we're now right at about 30 minutes over what our allotted time will be moving forward. I know you and I will be very strict about really doing our best to keep these weekly call-ins nice and tight.
Yeah.
But with what you were saying, what I was sharing with Sean the other night, I started breaking down the Chris Rock stand-up bit that he did in response to the slap, right, with Will Smith. And in that bit, oh my God, I did a whole thing about it. But with what you were saying and with what I've been kind of looking at about be as a child, and with what you were just saying, look at this. There's a line in this stand-up where Chris Rock says, "No child is born hating. You have to teach a child to hate. All children are good. All children are pure." So that was just the one thing I wanted to add to that, where it's like, that's why when you think about what is Kendrick Lamar calling Drake out for, it's very children related, right? And then you think about McDonald's and Happy Meals and cheeseburgers and happy, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's a very childlike thing that is just always there. And I think the way I'm looking at it is, whatever this is we're living in, it's telling you be as a child, humble yourself, strip it down, you will see it. But anyways.
Yeah, we can wrap it up here. Our time went really fast, but yeah, I'd prefer to, in the future we can keep it to an hour. It was the first show and time went really fast.
It really does, as we know, right? That's why when we agreed to this, we know how quickly time can fly. So yeah, let's wrap it up there. Once again, Rambo, I thank you pretty much every day I talk to you, just for your time and obviously your knowledge and your insight. Really appreciate it. This will be the phone number for the future. What I will say on my side, and I'll let you close, Rambo, this is the phone number that we will be using moving forward. And since I don't have a call-in queue set up, I am going to open up the voicemail line. So if something happens between now and next week, before our next call-in show, and you want to share an observation, ask a question, please call this line and leave a voicemail. And we will use that to the best of our ability to address those questions or observations where it sees fit. And then we will open up the line as such every week. So thank you again, Rambo. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I'm really trying to crunch it tight because this isn't going to be a weekly 3, 4, 5 hour live stream. We gotta cut it off.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, the fact that time went by so fast, I guess, is an indication of how well it went.
Thank you, Coffee Girl, for the love and support. Once again, you guys, please look into the description of the post. All my links are in there. If you guys want to like, subscribe, follow, etc., please hit the like and subscribe button on the way out. We just appreciate your support. And I'm really, really thankful, Rambo, that we have kind of this little weekly check-in where we can do this and talk to folks and everybody who has, but sees what we see, right? That's why I called it what I'm calling it. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's have a chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I look forward to future shows.
Absolutely, Rambo. Love you, man. Love the community. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, take care, guys.
Take care.